Good Monday. It's Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Well, big changes since last week. When we look at it really being kicked off in here today, 10-year Treasury. Last week we felt was oversold in here, but 10-year Treasury moving down to, amazingly enough, a 2.73. Remember last week when we talked, we were up at 3%. And we've also seen a touch of a move up in T-bills, really over the whole debt ceiling situation. So it'll be interesting to see, once again, as we saw in here this morning, that the feeling is that they are going to pass something. Whether or not it's going to meet the muster of the rating agencies is to tell. But looking at it overall is that we might be over this debt ceiling impasse. So suddenly the focus changes to the market. And we got on Friday GDP coming in at an even lower percentage than the originally reported first quarter GDP, dropping down to 1.3%. So when we look at it, the other piece of bad news that came out were all the revisions to GDP, showing that actually in the first quarter, much lower than anticipated. Also during the steepest part of the recession, that the revised data, which is the dotted line here, was showing a worse recession than what was originally reported. So when we're looking at this in terms of the revised data and where we are in here right now, it still would suggest a stagnating situation. This is what really prompted the markets on Friday so that the Treasury started to drop even in the face of the debt ceiling mess. When we look at it in here today, a number of different figures coming out is that we got ISM Manufacturing, and we want to look at this carefully, that ISM Manufacturing on the overall number dropping from 55.3 down to 50.9. Once again, right on the level of that 50 mark, which is the level between expansion and contraction. So this was a number that actually wasn't anticipated. They were expecting a slight drop to about 54. But look at within this is that new orders on the ISM, new orders in here, declined from 51.6, actually dropping through the 50 level, going to 49.2. Then if we look at it from the standpoint of their employment index, which is going to be important because of the unemployment number coming out this week, but the ISM Employment Index declining from 59.9 to 53.5. So once again, almost every one of these pieces of the ISM number as well as the overall showed significant declines in here. Also looking at construction orders in here went from positive 0.2 down to a negative 4.7 year over year. So when we look at this is that the whole construction area, which was showing some signs just a year ago, has continued to be in decline. The one number that was a good number that we want to watch very carefully this week was overall jobless claims. Jobless claims actually dropping down below that 400 level to 398. So when we look at this, we want to look carefully at what the unemployment situation is going to do at the end of this week. Once again, we keep repeating that you want to keep your eyes on overall unemployment. So we'll look at that as we come through the week. But once again, going back to the whole change in the yield curve, that this is going to continue to put pressure on community bank margins in here, because if this economy is not recovering, that along with employment not recovering, that is just going to put rates out further and further. I think that right now the suggestion is that with the way the economy's at is that this could be a year time frame. And it's getting harder and harder to find higher yielding assets, especially with a 10-year at a 2.73%. This is Jay Brew, co-chairman of Seafried and Brew. Have a great week.